So if someone just comes to the Bible and says, I don't personally like it, well, that doesn't work as an argument. They have to actually show, not just say, but show that the Bible is violating some moral norm in the universe.
You just said something really powerful. It's not just the facts, but what they find acceptable. I forget exactly how you worded it, but sort of in the realm of their previous worldview. And I think that's really true. I think we see that happen a lot, which kind of swings us back around to what we hinted at earlier, which is this idea that the Bible is presented as something that's actually immoral. The God that's presented, for example, in the Old Testament, according to a lot of skeptical claims, is an immoral monster. This is somebody who sanctions genocide and different types of oppression. And I know you have a chapter in your book on this as well. But let's talk about that a bit, because I think that really hits to the heart of how people are determining truth. Well, they read something and they go, well, that doesn't jive with what I think is moral. That doesn't jive with my previous worldview, and so it must be wrong. What would your advice be on that question?
Yeah. Well, as I pointed out earlier in our discussion today, this is a rather new development, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say new, really, the last 50 years in terms of the way people attack the faith, which is now the moral argument against God or the moral argument against the Bible, which is, it's not just wrong because it's historically or factually wrong, but it's quote unquote wrong because it's morally wrong. And that argument's coming up again and again. It's genocide on the one hand. It's the idea that Paul hates women on the other hand, or any other thing they find morally problematic. Well, there's two layers to responding to that. One layer is to deal with the actual objection and show that they're probably not reading the text correctly or really understanding the internal biblical logic. So on genocide, for example, that's so misunderstood and misconstrued that I think a lot of headway can be made just helping people understand what God is actually commanding, why he's commanded, and how God works when he deals with sin in the world and how judgment works and so on. That's part of the issue. But the other part of the issue is to help people realize that if they're going to make moral claims against the Bible and they're going to stick, they've got to have some basis in their worldview for making such moral claims. And here's the irony of the discussion. Most people making moral objections to the Bible have never thought about where morality comes from in the first place. They're just speaking out of their own internal angst over it, the fact that they don't like it, the fact that they're bothered by it. Okay, fair enough, but being bothered by something doesn't make it wrong. Not liking something doesn't make it wrong. Something is only wrong morally is if it violates some ultimate norm, some ultimate standard for right or wrong in the universe. If it just violates their own personal opinion, then why is that an argument? So if someone just comes to the Bible and says, I don't personally like it, well, that doesn't work as an argument. They have to actually show, not just say, but show that the Bible is violating some moral norm in the universe, so that God of the Bible is actually breaking some moral law. Now, of course, that just backs the question up one notch, which is where do these moral laws come from? And the irony is that the non-Christian has never asked that question. He's never forced to account for where moral norms come from. My point in the book is simply ask that question. To put it another way, it's not just Christians who have to account for morality. The non-Christian has to account for morality. And he needs to be asked where he gets it from. And you'll quickly realize is even though he's very quick to make moral claims, he's got no basis in a worldview for making them. In fact, ironically, he's actually kind of borrowing the Christian view, theism, to make moral claims in order to argue against the Christian view, which is, of course, the irony of the whole thing.
Yes, and we see that a lot. And just to give our listeners and viewers a tangible example of this, it might be easy to point to scenarios in which either progressive Christians or even atheists, who tend, by the way, to make a lot of the same claims, might point to the God of the Old Testament and say, well, that's genocide or that's oppression. But even in the New Testament, even the teachings of Jesus, we see people sort of declaring those things immoral. But like you said, without an objective standard of morality, they're just making declarations.